Yay, thank you.
Yay. Hi,
Sorry, I think I
Tracy.
requested to
How
be
are
in it as a
you?
viewer. I'm doing so well. It's nice to see you, Amy.
Nice to see you too. Definitely. Thank you so much for taking
Oh,
the
well, thank you for
time.
providing this platform. It's
Um,
wonderful to have the opportunity.
my pleasure. And so much fun to have your work in the gallery. I have a little preview just behind me, of course. So much fun to be in Tracy Land on video. We'll give everybody a little
Yeah,
bit of
absolutely.
time to join. I know they're right on that 7:30 seesaw
Oh,
appointment,
yeah.
so just kidding.
Okay. I see Hannah's on. That's great. Hey.
Yes, hi Hannah. Great to see you
Fun.
guys.
It's fun.
All right, so I'm just going to get into it because I think we have a lot to discuss.
Sure.
Um, Welcome everybody. I'm Amy Regan from Seesaw Art in Manchester, New Hampshire, and tonight we're so glad to have Tracy Hayes, who's joined us to talk about her art and her practice. Tracy's work is on view currently in our exhibition Push Pull, which is on view just until Sunday, so we've got one weekend to get into the gallery. Tracy Hayes was born in 1970 and has a BFA in painting from the New Hampshire Institute of Art and a BA in French from the University of New Hampshire. Originally from Montreal and Toronto, Tracy currently works and resides between Vermont and New Hampshire. She recently received an MFA in Visual Arts from Lesley University College of Lesley Art and Design in Cambridge. Tracy's work has been shown and is in collections throughout the Northeast. Welcome,
Thank you
Tracy.
so
Great to see you.
much. That was wordy. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't get the name of the
It's
college,
okay.
which I feel bad,
It's
but
now shifting. That's another
I did
conversation.
practice. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So let's get into it. Can you tell us about the obliteration scrolls that we
Yeah.
have on view? I'm going to give a little preview too and show people
Oh,
the work as you're
excellent.
chatting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to, these are like the kind of like the output of a kind of like a multi-year exploration of my personal mark making. And so it's kind of like I don't want to go like too far back and kind of like nerd everybody out, but there is kind of like a foundation in it that kind of led me to this point that I'll go towards. Um, I had worked kind of really hard in the past 10 years to try to kind of get a little more comfort within a certain type of drawing that I was doing. And, it became clear to me that it was just like there was a certain mark that was developing from a certain tendency that, I had with my hand. And, every time I tried different media or different, modes of expression, it came out. And so it became the thing rather than like the underpinnings of say other paintings. And somebody had observed along the way that what I was making was like language like things, right?
Mm,
And so the first
I
time
love
I
that.
picked up a role was in a bookmaking club with two friends of mine, Donna and Gail. And it was kind of a far stretch. Like, I mean, it didn't really have to be anything, and I didn't know, I didn't really want to define these as books, but it fit that mode. And so, and then I shelved the idea of them being books, obviously, but I continued making them. And I
Mm,
think part of that was just like, I had like this kind of like a restless drawing style that just needed more real estate, if you will. And so these became like my sketchbooks, if you will. And so they piled up when I was
yeah.
working and talking and studying and doing a lot of other things. It wasn't just these things, but they were kind of like always in the background on the side as not meant for viewing, quite frankly. Right.
Mm,
you know
mm. Oh, I love that.
and I think, like, yeah, I know it's like it's bizarre, right? And so because and then to like kind of like just kind of like advance the thought of like the visual language part of it, it's like because I started thinking of them as kind of like lingual in a way, and I started thinking about things like
Yes.
legibility, because they're made vertically. I'm sorry, yeah, they're made, like they're made horizontally and then they're displayed vertically,
Mm,
and then better together when like there's no way that you could like ever pinpoint the instance at which point they were supposed to talk to each other. So there was all that kind of stuff swirling around. And it came to be that I guess long story short, my good friend Deb Reed, she was interested in them. She was like pulling
yeah.
them off. I always have them kind of piled
Yeah.
up. I like them piled up, as I do a lot of my other work as well. I like little like slices of things showing. So I was kind of like wondering what that
Mm.
was all about as well. And so she said, I think these need to be hung, and I was like,
Wow.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And so, with extreme ambivalence, she said, look, just give them over to me. Let me hang them. So I
Oh, I
did.
love
She has
that.
a beautiful
Yeah.
gallery and a storefront down in Gloucester, and put them up in the window. And I was like, oh, well, there's something there,
Wow.
there's something there in the volume of
What
them.
did you
Yeah.
think? Like, did she hang the work and then you came down later and you saw it? Or did you hang it together? Or like, what was your experience seeing it hung in the window for the first time?
She said, how would you hang it? I think she tried hard to have me
Yes,
do it. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not like an
of
installation
course.
artist, like, like I'm a painter, I'm a drawer, I don't really do this
Yeah.
stuff. And she said, well, what if like just hold it then and let it drop, like that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And that was a big step for me, because I really I've always been kind of like a solid 2D artist. It's like I didn't really think I had that kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't know if the work had that
I
kind of
love this
potential, if
part.
you will.
Great.
And so
Great.
we then started bringing up some pretty elaborate, like, I mean, I was just kind of like stapling it to the wall, and I
I
kind of
love
like that, and like layering
that.
them, and then
Yeah.
I left, and then I came back, and she had, uh, you know, she's a sculptor, so she had actually
There you
installed it,
go.
rolled it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like this is great. So, and then from there, I've just expanded that. It's like great.
I love any sort of ideas that are organic, because I think as artists, we're always trying to um, make sure that we have those ideas and we always have them. So I'm like, I feel like when your brain comes up with something and then you're able to respond to it in that way, and where like the
Yeah,
pressure is off,
yeah,
like
yeah,
so many artists I know have like,
yeah,
okay, this is my bread and butter, like this is something that I'm working on and I'm
yeah.
excited about, and then this is something that I'm working on and I'm not sure what it is.
100%.
And I love those three different buckets, and it's really fun to like fully explore an idea and then to see where it goes. And I love the idea of thinking about this as the visual language, because I see it now. Um, yeah, I think that is a really fun thing, and to take that step back and to give it to a curator to say, hey, let's try something different with it. These are really beautiful, and you have so many of them, and there are so many different ways that you can display them. And I think that was what was so exciting to me too. It was like, okay,
Yeah,
I have this tiny space. How am I going to do it? I thought of like hanging them high above, like using them as a ceiling piece, which I thought was like kind of a little bit out there, but you're so
no, yeah,
generous and you're like, do whatever you want to do with it. Um, but I sort of like that collaboration as well.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
100%. And no,
definitely.
I look, I never get anywhere without collaboration. I'm just now I have a little bit of, few projects under my belt, and a little bit of, time, and I've had some privilege in working with some people, and it's like it always just leapfrogs what I see in terms of my own potential. I don't know if I give that back, but it's like such a fabulous thing to be a participant in that, for sure. 100% agreed. Yeah.
Definitely. Hannah's got a question, and she says, was it a issue that convinced you to showcase them vertically, or were you looking at the scrolls? So I have to be completely candid on this, answering this question, Hannah, specifically for this exhibition. So I am like a huge documentarian. If I can get a photo of every single little thing, then I'm definitely going to do it. But at the same point, I knew the scrolls were super organic, like you're saying, Tracy. And I knew it would drive me crazy that of course, I want to take a photo of every single inch, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I can't. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
realistic. So when you drop them off to me in my side porch on a Saturday afternoon in a Tupperware, when I wasn't there, I came home, there they were, and they were kind of rolled like a tome that you would like pull like this. So they had already been sort of displayed in a way. So I sort of took that as an organic idea and thought like, okay, we figured out the hanging system. Props to Devin for figuring out. I was like, they got to go to the tall ceiling, because I love that you can see it sort of above everything. And then we just kind of took that tight roll and then just let it go down. And we did a little bit of fiddling, thinking like maybe we could pull it up a little bit higher or kind of explore a little bit. But how it organically fell is just kind of how I let it go, as uncomfortable as that made me feel. But I still was like, this, I can't. Like, there's just too. And then to figure out, like, a couple days after hanging, that there's designs on the other side, or there's mark making on the other side. I was like, oh my goodness. And Tracy's smart, and she knows that they're 1,200 inches long per roll, which is like, wow. So I just kind of went with it and tried to find an interesting space, but then also tried to like leave space so it could show that it wasn't all full color. Yeah, so it was definitely a little bit more
Absolutely.
organic
I
than
love that
usual.
that challenged
So
you too, because it does challenge quite a few people. They're really like kind of like aggressively undocumentable. You know?
they really are for sure. And it's like, my thing is like making sure that things are really approachable online and it's easy to share. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to take like as
Just cut
many
pieces
photos as
off.
I
It's
can of
fine.
the install. And then, but that's their thing, And as much as I do want to make stuff approachable online, like I really am, I really believe in seeing artwork in person. I think that's inherent in running a gallery now. So if somebody comes in and says like, hey, can we roll it out and see what else is going on here, I would totally say sure. I know that Tracy would agree with that, and it's great because in the space that I'm in here at Mosaic Art Collective, there is a high school class every Wednesday. So the owner, Liz Peroni, asked me yesterday, like, is it okay? I'm going to talk about mark making with the students. Would it be okay if I kind of rolled the scrolls out and we like talked about Tracy's work? And I was like, thanks for
Oh,
asking.
it's so
Hell yes.
good. Yes.
Because that's so
Yeah,
cool
that
to
is
share,
outrageous.
my gallery and how it sort of goes through its phases is like continually interesting to the high school students. It's a free open studio for Manchester based high
Love it.
school students, which we love, Wednesday afternoons. But it was like, yep, for sure, roll it out. I said there's stuff on the back, like anything that's going to help appreciate, the work, and then also explain something to the kids I really love. So
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
Maybe I'll go back and answer Hannah's. Sorry, Hannah. We got off on
Yeah.
a tangent. Um, I know that the question was, are they hung vertically for space? They're definitely easier to hang vertically.
Yes.
The paper, I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, I think probably had the paper been easier to hang, I'd just like go strips around the wall. But no, I actually really come to love them vertically because it's so
Mm.
aggressively like, or like so counter to how they're made, that I just like that it throws. I mean, it's just like it throws a new layer of something to it. But then the other part, I mean, I don't think this was what Hannah asked at all, but the um the fact that there's so many of them comes out of the fact
Mm-hmm.
that they're very portable and easy to make with lack of space. And that is another thing that I had to contend with, because obviously, things shifted during the pandemic and, like all this stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so I've come to really like kind of I don't know, defend the fact that I really like doing some of my work on a kitchen table. Like I just do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and so that's where all these
Yeah,
come
for
from. There's a whole
sure.
bunch of other, range of works that are larger paintings, what have you, and they're all done in another room, but like these are done in intimate spaces. And I think that's really kind of like important to me about them too. So
Yeah, for sure. I've been telling patrons that come in and enjoy, like, sometimes you're literally sitting on the
yeah.
couch and like enjoying yourself and making some mark making. And, maybe a bit different part of the art world would say, like, no, no, no. But I think making it as approachable as possible. There's so many things that you have to take care of before you can actually sit down and make that work. And I think we can
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
identify with that. That just making, I
Yeah.
love that portability. I love like when I see a collage artist who's like in like traveling on the train or something
Yeah.
like that, or
I do
somebody
too.
who's sort of sketching. I think that is like the coolest thing for sure. I'm everywhere
Yeah.
like with my laptop and a hotspot,
Oh,
like
yeah. Totally.
as everybody can probably imagine. Like I love that freedom for sure. But yeah, reducing that friction, and then like in it's celebrating the line, and I think that that's a huge
Yeah.
part, or celebrating the mark making. I think that that's a huge part of this work. So this isn't the only work that you've created. I've seen multiple other
Mm-hmm.
non-obliteration scrolls that you've made. Are you still making
Oh,
that
yeah.
work, or have you like, yes, for sure. Okay, because I feel like maybe it's just me, but I've seen a lot of this work and I haven't seen maybe other projects that you do. So can you tell us a
Yeah,
little bit of your other
absolutely. Well, and I
mediums
think too,
or?
so much of like how anything gets seen these days is through like, the Insta illusion world, right? And so I think the
For
reason
sure.
why more of I mean, this is becoming more and more associated with me is because these happen to be the things that people are a little bit more interested in hanging. So that's totally fine. But there is an absurdity to it because I
Interesting.
probably have maybe, I don't know, 40 canvas like paintings that I'm
Right?
like, oh, maybe they're done, maybe they're not done. I mean, I know, like for me, like volume is part of the process, and it's not like everything. I mean, nothing's really dedicated to anywhere. It's just there's a constant need to work out a problem, and there are sometimes I've become just much more in tune with my personal like making, ebb and flow, and there's just sometimes that call for like a certain medium, and
Mm.
others that call for and just wondering how in tune I can be and switch between the two, and like all that stuff. It's like we all do. But yeah, no, there are a lot of other things, and maybe they just get cut up and off. I have to be kind of careful because I move very, very, very quickly through the work, and which is fine. I can live with the outcome, but I'm sure I'm not sure what I see. Like it might take me 6 months to see something really, and so you're kind of like I'm sure I destroy
Yes.
things all the time, and I'm like, well, slow that down maybe, and maybe not. Like I don't know. It's okay. Yeah,
That's that's funny because it's like you work so fast, but you realize like maybe, we need time to live with
yeah,
things, right?
yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting sort of back and forth,
Well, I think that's
definitely.
why I loved when. Sorry to interrupt you, but I loved when Dave, during your live stream, Dave Pettengill, who's also in the show, when he said there are. What did he say? There are moments when time matters. Like
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's so.
Yeah,
And I'm sure we
definitely.
probably have different ideas of it, but I was like, no, I totally, I get it.
Right.
Like, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely for sure. And, I always feel that as a curator, it's like, okay, whatever you're going to show, you need to have it to me like
yeah,
by this date. So I always feel, and I'm a marketing
yeah,
coordinator
yeah,
professionally, so I'm like the date bill
yeah,
person, which is awful. But it is, and I think that that's part of my fun here at the gallery is to say like, okay, for one
yeah.
month, like this existed, and then this work is going to go out into the world. It's so fun for me to see other shows with works that I've exhibited either in Rochester or here in Manchester and just sort of see where that sort of goes, but to know like we had it for a short amount of time altogether. That's a really fun, like historical
Yes.
part. It's part librarian, part art curator, I feel like is running a
It's also
gallery.
part of the social practice that seeds get planted, and then these days having the
Yes.
opportunity is no small thing for any artist. So I think everybody's very appreciative of the work you do. Yeah.
Thank you. It's so much fun. I'm so lucky for sure. And that's one thing that I like to say too is like artists have their style and it takes them a long time to develop their style. It takes them a long time to be comfortable with it and to keep
Yeah.
going. For me, I get new art from
Yeah.
probably four artists monthly,
Yeah.
right? So that's like an easy thing to like I get the good turnover. Whenever I get a little discouraged, I think of all of the artists that are in the middle or the beginning of their 50-year career that are going to have that grit to keep going. And I say, nope, I need to keep going
Mm.
because I know that there are people out there that need that recognition. So that's really fun for me too. So, like,
Yeah. No,
hopefully, I feed
no, you definitely feed. Yeah.
your
Absolutely.
practice,
Yeah.
but all of my artists and everybody who's on the call today really really keeps me going as well because we need to celebrate and we need to hear directly
Yeah.
from you in this work. And it's so fun for me. Like a little ego boost is like checking someone's CV and seeing like that I'm on there,
Oh, amazing.
and then to see what they did
Yeah.
after, which is
Yeah.
a really fun thing. Or like I suggested, work with this person,
Yeah.
or I'm a
Yeah.
great connector, which is really really my fun work. Um, so for your studio practice, is it? I was talking
Yeah.
to Jane Cohen earlier this week. She was like, "You just got to
Yeah.
show up and you just got to do it." Do you have any sort of advice like that, or what does your practice look like, or are you kind of like very regimented, or is it a sporadic thing,
Yeah.
or
I
I don't
mean,
know.
it'll probably come as no surprise that it's not regimented.
No,
No, but
I
I say
don't
that
know.
it's not that it's not regimented. It is just something I do daily. I don't question it. I just do, and
Mm,
I'm sure there is an awareness of a certain digestion period it takes within within the work, and then kind of sitting with it at night. There are often times that I can get up and pick up and you know complete, and then other times I have to start afresh. But there's always something getting done, like writing on the side is really important to me as well. Little sketchbooks, like it's just always something, there's a preference on time and like a certain, but like, there's a lot, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of times like where you get into the studio and it's just, you're not feeling it. And, even if you have time in front of you, it's like, it doesn't flow, so it's like, there's just times and seasons for everything. And I just have to like kind of get used to that and accept it and like move through it. And I think I've done enough of those seasons that I can kind of like identify like how to turn into and turn away from, and then just hopefully, set up the conditions where exciting things happen. I mean, a lot of it's slog, but I feel very fortunate because I really am pretty consumed with it. That's like, I think the volume
great. Yeah, like,
I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like the freedom of not having, like audience all the time. You're like, oh, whatever, just throw it. It's like just piles.
Yeah, because you really do have like piles and piles of the scrolls, which that's so exciting to me, and also like daunting in a way. It's like,
that's probably
wow,
the
what are we
solution.
gonna do with
Just like a
all
pile
this?
of them. And there was one proposal I had with piles and
totally see
pages.
that. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I feel like so many artists would identify with that. Lots of people are sketching all the time, and then like it comes through to 5 or 6 pieces of a bunch of sketchbooks, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's always ridiculous to disseminate it down. They're like, oh, so and I'm like, listen, it's just not even, you don't want to know.
Right? Oh my goodness, that's so funny. So if anybody has any questions for Tracy, please pop them in. That's why we're here, is to sort of dig in and figure out Tracy's brain a little bit. What have you got coming up? What's coming up for you, if anything? Don't feel like there's nothing.
No,
awful,
I have a few things coming up. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
I am about to have schedule a conversation with Mike Howitt for Ava Outreach. It would be my third one there, second with him. So I hope to pick up on that conversation. That should be sometime in February and will be recorded, I hope. But yeah, I really I think I threw him off a little bit the first time because he had no idea, and I just like started like, manically rolling out scrolls, and it's like, but it was like, that's kind of the fun.
Right, you're like, I can show you
like this, and he was like, I don't even know which camera angle to get to, and it was like so fun. I love those conversations, so that was great.
That's great.
I know, I loved it.
Gonna keep Mike on his toes,
he's like,
sure. And I love that conversation too.
Which was very kind of him to ask me back, but when he asked me, he's like, I'm a little more aware of your process now, so I was like, yeah, I got it.
A little more prepared. But I love that too, because it's a live stream. You can join from anywhere. You're going right and learning right from the artist. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to have to set an alarm on my phone.
Yeah, I really enjoy him. And then I've got a couple of kind of like aside projects with a good friend of mine, Deb Reed. And so one of them is Art Plus Everywhere, which is an organization that we co-founded to help support our community. And they're going through the first level of innovation grants at this point that have been, funds have been raised, and that's being supported. So, we're hoping to, do our part to help seed, and, be at least some kind of conduit there. I'm not sure, And then on that same vein, I do help her with her summer programming down at Gallery Rag, which is a really cool, like kind of like more of a project space down in Gloucester. And for that, there's no pressure, commercially, thankfully, because that's not really the kind of like the vision for the place. But it's a really beautiful little community down there, and they do these culture splash events, and so it's basically 9 weeks of one night shows. So it's a pace, right? And then like, this was the inaugural year, and so like we would just invite people in, like see what happened, and do some like it's all meant to be kind of more innovative, and and like get people off of their normal game, and there was a lot of really exciting things that happened there, and so we're really looking forward to like doing that again this summer, but without it becoming too stagnant, But anyway, that's another thing.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
I've got
that's exciting.
I'm doing a show with a 3-person show with Stephen Cabral, who I think and he's one of my favorites.
Yes,
and then
for
Kelly
sure.
Lair, and that's going to be in the fall. So that's going to be like more of like a solid painter show, right? A painter vocabulary. They're very serious. So I have to get back into that mode again. So
after summer, in like a summer of art happenings, I know, you're like back in the
into the planning mode. I'm like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, I'm like so glad to hear that you've got a lot of stuff coming up because I think that that really feeds, it kind of gives you that demand and on so many
Yeah,
different levels
yeah,
too. Your personal work,
yeah,
supporting the community, and that's definitely part of being an
yeah.
artist around here nowadays for
Well, I
sure.
think so too. I think it's just it's important. I think
Yeah,
I only mentioned it just because it's become more and more apparent that we have to do a lot, and might as well bring that onto the forefront. We have to create the world we want, and so that's part of it. I think
yeah,
so. Yeah.
I totally understand that for sure. What was I going to say? So I have one question, but we just got a question from Zach Tinker, who's an artist that had a wonderful show at the RMFA and
Oh,
Seesaw. He got the treatment, which I say. You show it
the
Seesaw,
treatment.
you show it the RMFA, like, come on. So he was wondering, because I think he joined a couple minutes later, was what inspired you to make the work on the scrolls?
Oh, they're kind of it came from a need for unlimited material. So they're really like my sketchbooks, but if sketchbooks never
Yeah,
ended. And so each one of these is
I
about
just love
100
that.
feet long, and then I just keep on going. I mean, I go back. I mean, it's a little mad, but yeah. So that, I mean, it sounds nuts when I
I
say
love
it, but
that.
like it really makes sense when I'm doing it alone. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it really I just and then I think it also helped me explore kind of like initially what hiding, like what the relationships were
Yes.
between, because a lot of it, like I could really always complete something if I kept on it, but then I was really worried about duration and whether I was spending too much time, too little time, and like what that sweet spot was. And so then I could kind of
Interesting.
like execute some rule based stuff too, which was not my thing at all, but I tried. So it's kind of like, oh well, what if I never see what was before, or what if I just this is all
Mm.
like every little area is only like one day's worth, and then I go forward, and now it's much more fluid, but like I tried all that just to kind of see if I could isolate out some
Yeah.
of that stuff, but
What a great platform
mm,
to be able to do that. And I love, like, I don't know, maybe it's just my personality and it's not true in everything, which I learn all the time, but I love
yeah,
infinite.
yeah,
You can be infinite in like very few things. I'm learning as I get older, of
oh
course.
yeah,
But like you could tape a roll to another roll and then you could have a 200-foot roll, right? Which is like that. I just love the idea of infinite. Because I think that it really like shakes up. I think that way about our space in Rochester. It feels so big, like we'll never fill it. And I think that like that really feeds me. It's
yeah.
like, okay, we can kind of like keep growing and growing and
Oh,
growing.
that's
Yeah,
great. I love
I
that.
really
Yeah.
love that idea. Definitely. Let's see. So how can we follow along? Is it social media? Is it email? Is it website? What's the best way to
Well,
keep
this is
up
a
with you?
hard week for me.
It is.
No, everything's
I
fine.
know it's really tough.
I would always say Instagram, but I was hacked last week. So now what I'm on right now, it's fine. I mean, I'll keep both if I can rejoin it, but I would say always Instagram still, but I do have a website. Everything's a little bit, as we say, a little bit out of date, because as soon as I complete it, I'm so thrilled I've done those administrative duties that I move on, and then I'm like, oh my god, now it's another 2 years and it's really outdated. So yeah, that is still, I mean, that is, it provides you with an email address. It does get to me, so sure. But yeah, those would be the two places. Or through you, Amy.
Excellent, excellent. Or through me. Yeah, anybody, will always have a landing page at seesaw.gallery, so don't worry about that. There's always my email on there. So anybody wants to get in contact with Tracy, please grab me. Zach's also wondering, do you make your own scrolls, or like where does the paper come
I
from?
love that question. I would love to do that. Paper making would just be something I'd really want to get into, but I haven't. So then the scrolls, like this is kind of embarrassing, but yeah, exactly. No,
Sorry,
absolutely.
I forget my script.
Well, and I think the other part of this is that a lot of these were executed or started being executed during pandemic, and I made a move up to northern Vermont, and so I was really
Mm.
really removed from access to things, and so this is like the craziest thing, but these scrolls are sold in the hardware store. They
Yes,
are
yes,
archival, but like
right.
right? They're not, and I work on very nice paper, and I do have a lot of work like that. But I think these really, I don't make my own scrolls, but I really like the quality of paper on these, because they do flow, and there's something about
Hmm.
preciosity that is something I have to like reckon with, and so I think that's some of the problem I have with like stretch canvas. know what I mean? So anyway, that's a long answer,
Yeah.
Zach. I didn't mean to, but that's kind of like the background there. So part of it was access, and then now it's like become like uniformity almost. And so, I'm like, oh, well, maybe
Yeah.
like it's like painting your house to match the roof that you always hated, but you didn't want to change the roof, but I mean, I like this paper, so I'm okay with it. But like, it's part of that too. I'm like, oh, maybe we should shift that a little bit and start making something, but
For sure. And I love like there's a great intersection between like, hey, I have this idea,
yeah,
how am I actually going to get it done? It doesn't surprise anybody that
yeah,
like I want to know that step.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
cool idea, like how are you actually going to do it? And I love whenever there's a crossover between like the hardware
oh
store
yeah.
and the art handlers.
It made me feel really
For
legit as a
me, I just
painter,
think
I
like,
was like, all my friends were like,
yeah,
where'd you order
definitely. And
from?
I,
I'm like, they're like, Amazon. I'm like, yeah.
yeah. I love that. And it helps with the democratization too. It's like it's not something that costs $2,000 and you have to cut by hand with special scissors. It's like, and Zach, we know you're always at the hardware store, right? So it's like there it is. It's
Yeah,
living
yeah,
among us, which is
yeah,
super sweet. Yeah, I was reminded of my question when you
yeah,
said that you're in Vermont. So, you know sort of had
yeah,
a deep connection to New
yeah,
Hampshire, and then also
yeah.
moved up to Vermont. So, how do you think that sort of living there may like help percolate ideas, or do you see a difference between the two locations that you've
Yeah, I
occupied? I suppose.
mean, it's kind of like the question about the paper. It's really hard to kind of like untether the two because my life is very different having moved up here,
Mm,
and I definitely,
yeah.
I mean, some of the challenges have been, like reestablishment of community, like really kind of like thinking things
Yes.
like that through. But, you know, when I really made the move, it was to get closer to the Canadian border. My family was up there, pandemic, et cetera, like all the things. And
Yes.
so, I mean, it's wonderful for making. I mean, we all, I mean, there are residencies all around here. People really enjoy it. It's just the community
Yeah.
aspect I still am working on. In terms of the work shifting, it's kind of like a weird thing. At first, I did have people, and like, and it's not like what's shown here. I mean, there's always been kind of like an organic connection to nature within the work, and I do my best thinking while I'm out walking in the woods. So it's very natural for me to. And at first, I
Yeah.
thought, well, I'm staring up at a ski mountain half the time, so maybe those lines behind you are that. But then it's hard because like I don't want to find like an overtly like kind of figural like underpinning for what I'm doing. But like if I had to
Right.
lean them one way or the other, I mean, they say like, like all work that's larger than you is, landscape in some way, right? And so,
Oh, that's
I think, and I
interesting.
think there were some other
Not
works
this
like,
way, but
yeah,
this
yeah,
way.
yeah,
It's larger.
I know, not taller,
Just kidding.
not taller. I know, I don't really hear those things, but
Oh my goodness. No, that's smart. Yeah.
there are definitely other works that came out when I first moved here, and people were like,
Mm.
that's like a window, or where are you painting? What are you looking at? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, probably that. And I think that's part of the problem. Is like the longer I spend on any one thing, they start to look like probably something that I'm experiencing overtly, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. Interesting. Excellent. So,
yeah,
one sleeper question that I thought of that I'll probably ask everybody moving forward. So, you know, when you get to the point where you're
yeah.
thinking, because I think this all the time, like sort of what lifts you up, if you're having either like a tough time, or you've done all the things and like things aren't changing how you really anticipated they would, obviously you keep going. Do you have any sort of advice to
Mm.
like keep going and keep showing
Oh
up?
yeah, absolutely. I think, well, the one thing I already alluded to. So like if it's me and me internally and I'm just worried about like some kind of a funk, I always, shift focus by, getting out into the woods or getting out into open space and like just seeing if I can
Love
recenter
that.
myself and like get myself out of like a negative, down spiral. But like the more, and again, like, it's a tough week. There's a lot that just closed in New Hampshire. There's a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm about to have like a second alma mater that, is going through some major restructuring. It's really, really a tough time
Yeah.
and you get the questions from everybody, it's like, but I think that having multiple projects underway that aren't necessarily just focused on my own making, so whether it be collaborative projects or dialogues with other artists, or some kind of like a touchstone connection that is more like we, not I based, has
Mm-hmm.
always made me
Mm,
feel it's a lot more rewarding than any one thing that I could ever show or do, or. So I mean, to be part of another person's process, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's a very, and I think you probably know this already, Amy, but it's like oftentimes we're very secluded as artists, and we don't take the time to really try to be a part of somebody else's process. If they're willing to share, of course. I'm not trying to be a creeper or anything, but
yeah,
I think that for me has always been able to because then you feel that lineage, and that you feel how important like it is, right, when other people aren't
for
telling you it's
sure,
important. Yeah,
right.
because rejection sucks, and we
Yeah,
get it a
like
lot.
like
Yeah,
almost like you said,
yeah,
okay, I'm going to go to your opening, right? And so it's like it's
yeah,
tough to get to openings all the time. Like I totally understand that. But like you told your
yeah,
friend, and you
yeah,
watched her or him like
yeah,
produce the show. So when it comes down to it, and it's like, oh, it'd be nice, I'm tired. I went to work and it's Friday, first Friday, but showing up for
yeah,
them, and then I don't know. I'm always like that. It is worth the effort
yeah,
most of the time. But I love
yeah.
that sense of community. It's almost like a gym accountability partner, which
Totally.
I've
Yeah,
never had before. Like I'm my only one, which is why I'm in my situation. But like, you're
yeah,
investing in that, and it does say a lot to say like I am going to do
yeah,
this. And so you really, you hold yourself to that. And it's kind of like what Jane
yeah.
Cohen was saying, and that she has a 4-hour Zoom session every week with artists all over from the world. And that's what's
Oh, interesting.
compelling her to make sure that
Yeah,
she's still going. And she's like, okay, I have to present during critique this week.
yeah.
Like, what have I got? If I don't have
Oh,
anything,
that's
I'm going to
interesting.
be
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I
embarrassed,
forgot she said
right?
that. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, just after college, I ran a critique monthly in my apartment in downtown
Okay.
Manchester. And that was really fun because we were out of school.
Yeah,
There were no more deadlines,
yeah,
And so it was like, we got to make something. And it was just fun to get together again
yeah,
and to do that. So
yeah.
I really love that idea. I totally identify with that for sure. Excellent. Well,
Thank
this has
you.
been so much fun, and I want to say thank you so much to everybody who joined us tonight. It really is really the
Mhm.
best for both Tracy and I. If anyone did miss it, thanks for watching after. This will be available on my feed for reference later, and everything is available online to be viewed. So you can visit seesaw.gallery to view the exhibition, and you can also go to seesaw.gallery/visit to check out our open hours this week. I also have a little appointment booking app, so please book an appointment with me. I live 10 minutes down the road. I would love to come down and show you any show, this show specifically today, but any show coming up in the future. And yeah, always reach out with any questions or anything. And I just want to say thank you so much to Tracy from joining from all the way in the Northern Kingdom. I love the fact that
I
you can
know.
be
It's
from
just
anywhere. I mean,
so
Dave
good.
was in
Yeah,
Dover, Jane's in Florida, you're
yeah,
in Vermont. It's like it's just so much fun to me to be able to really dive in
yeah,
and also be approachable.
yeah,
So I think that that's
yeah.
a good theme for the evening.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
everyone. We'll
Bye.
see you soon. Bye.